Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Premier Sim Gaming League's YouTube channel. And here we are for round number 2 of the PlayStation F4 season here in Miami, a place that F1 has been wanting to visit for a very long time, and we're finally making it a reality here at PSGL. Of course, PSGL sponsored by GT Omega. And if you want to get any discounts off GT Omega products, you can do if you go to their website and use a code PSGL at checkout to receive 5% off. So very much worth doing. We're also sponsored by Grid Rival, a Formula 1 Fantasy League game for the real-life F1 season. And if you want to join our PSGL League on Grid Rival, you can do so by using the affiliate link in the description that should be below. Welcome to everybody. And it's fair to say, after a dramatic opening round, it's going to be very interesting to see what this second round of the season brings us. We've already got several cars out on the circuit. It looks a bit overcast here at Miami, but looks dry for the moment, which is all important. And what we'll do is go on board with last week's race winner, Kieran, as we go around this tricky middle part of the lap round, turns 12 up to 15. All very narrow, definitely not spots for overtaking, but definitely spots where you can gain or lose a lot of time. And Kieran, the winner of round 1 last week at Austria, in dramatic circumstances, just 8 thousandths separated, but him and the unfortunate runner-up of Gustav, but very, very close, you have to say. And it wasn't, of course, 8 thousandths separated on the track. There was a penalty involved that Kieran had that he had to make up, but he did so by the slimmest of margins. And not only that, he also took away the fastest lap point, so he's very much in charge of the championship after round 1. And we'll see if that continues here as he threads his way through the opening part of the lap. I'll just double check that everything's working as it should be. I had a few issues last week, but hopefully a week in we should be running smoothly. And if not, then I'll have to do something about it. But yeah, everything seems to be running absolutely fantastically, which is great news as we follow Kieran round. If there is any issues with the stream quality, that's just purely down to the internet that I have at the moment. I have to run it a bit lower than I would like to. So apologies if the picture does go a little bit blurry at times, but nothing I can do. And it's better to have that than no stream at all, that's for sure. So of course it's Felix who usually commentates alongside me. He should be back next week, and he usually does the streaming, so it should be a lot smoother next week. But it is just me for tonight as we follow Kieran round his lap. He's coming towards the end of it now. He's just got through the technical section. There's no real sort of cool, calm and fluid way through that section of the track. You've just got to try and take as much speed as possible, as Gustav, the driver who he pipped to the win last week, takes provisional pole, and Kieran slots in behind. Not much in it though. Another driver who was very quick last week is Luke and Nick. Got a yellow flag just in front of him. I think that's just a car pulling off to the side of a road, letting newer drivers continue on their way. But it is the top 2 from the first race that have set the benchmark pace thus far. We'll see if any of the other drivers can match or better that pace. Charlie Moon slotted into 3rd, as Gian does a 1:27.1, takes 3/10 of a second out of those lap times. Luke and Nick goes P2, so already, and Amwoy now taking P2 from his teammate. So already we're seeing some lap times come in, but very much in competition as Samba, one of our reserves who didn't take part last week but is in the Alfa Romeo tonight, goes into P2 now in a 27.2. Macho takes provisional pole, 27 flat from him. So Gustav and Kieran's opening lap times weren't the quickest. You have to say, this track could be one that produces a couple of surprise results compared to last week. I'm going to quickly go on board with another driver. Some of the game sounds a little bit off-putting, I have to say. LRB will follow him round on his lap in the Alfa Romeo. A driver who showed some decent pace last week, but ultimately got caught up towards the back of the field and never quite recovered from that. Latus has just gone onto the front row of the grid. Jaum's gone third, so both Alpines currently occupying the second row of the grid. 19 turns to this Miami circuit for these drivers to deal with. A good mix, actually, of fast and slow corners, you have to say. It's a decent balance of that on the track. It'll be interesting to see what kind of racing this track delivers as LRB continues on into this really sort of it's a really clunky section of track. It's not particularly fun to drive, but if you get it right, it can earn you buckets of lap time over your competitors. LRB's got some traffic in front of him. Hopefully they move out of the way if they're not on a lap, but it's coming up towards the final few corners of the track to see what sort of benchmark he can set. And it's just literally, you want to get the power down as soon as you can out this final corner. LRB up to the line. It's a 28.0. It's probably the slowest representative lap time we've had so far. Not what he would want. Maybe just getting a bit more up to speed over some of the other drivers, and we'll now go on board with a driver who was very quick in last week's race, Girofu. He took away some good points in the end as well. Got a podium in the Mercedes. He was always thereabouts, and he did manage to get some good points from Austria. He'll be looking to keep this going tonight at a track which is very, very different in configuration, and that's why I don't expect to see a similar pecking order, kind of backed up by those opening lap times. A lot of drivers towards the front that we didn't expect to see. Girofu making his way through the first sector, flinging that Mercedes at the racetrack, and we'll see what sort of opening sector he's produced. It's 29.9, which I think is a very good opening sector, and we'll see if that carries on over the course of the rest of his lap. He's just got past a Red Bull on his way through. We've got a few drivers that, I don't know if they're coming out for their second runs or if they just came out a bit later than some of the others, but they've got a few drivers now on their first flying laps. Oh, Girofu took a lot of curve there. I don't know if that would have cost him some lap time. It says he's purple for the first two sectors, but we know that sometimes isn't the most reliable of sources. As again, he's just got a Haas in front that's going to move out nicely out of the way for him, so no issues there. Still Macho leading away in the 27.0. I get the feeling though we'll get into the 26s before this qualifying session is over. And Milan goes quickest in the McLaren. He's not into the 26s, and neither is Girofu, who slots into P3. But we are getting ever closer to that sort of benchmark. Marcel Gruz, that second sector time is going to be fighting for pole. Let's see what he does across the line. It's a 27.7, only 17th quickest for him at the moment. And we've got Kieran and Gustav out for their second flying laps. Let's follow Gustav as we followed Kieran last time. Gustav probably devastated to lose out on the win last week by just 0.08 of a second, but will nevertheless be encouraged by his early season performance. Of course, they're shorter seasons at PSGL this time around. I believe as opposed to doing 2 longer seasons, they're doing 3 shorter seasons this time. So it's more and more imperative that you get off to a good start. And to get that second place, get 12 points on the board in the opening round, sets him up well for the races that have still to come. His opening lap time only good enough for 13th first, so he'll be looking to find a lot more pace than that. And he's a 10th of a second up on his previous lap time. Unless he finds a lot of time in this last sector, that's not a massive improvement. He's got Kieran just behind him, so I'll quickly switch to Kieran once we've finished the lap with Gustav to see if he can improve further as well. Gustav round the final few corners, currently 13th. This should be an improvement. Gustav across the line goes 10th. Kieran though is on a much better lap, and he goes to provisional pole and does hit the 1:26 mark. Kieran provisional pole. And that's a really nice lap time and much more what he would have been expecting. But Macho, look at this, 0.2 of a second up in the first sector alone. And his lap time was already very strong. So Kieran on pole for now, but that may not remain that way. As he winds his way through the middle sector, taking so much curve. You really can chuck the car at this racetrack, and he's still maintaining that 2.5 tenth margin that he's got. So this could be provisional pole again for the AlphaTauri driver. But Gian takes provisional pole back at 26.7. The lap times are really coming down in this session. And now can Macho beat or match that? Let's see, across the line he goes. Can he beat Gian's lap time? No, he can't. Goes back onto the front row provisionally though, but it's Gian who leads the way in the Alpine. Nice lap time indeed. We've got latest. That's a very good opening sector. 29.8 is very strong indeed, so we'll follow the other Red Bull round. I'm going to stick with the non-on-board shots for now because the audio seems very off whenever I go on board with the drivers, so I don't particularly want that to be heard too much on stream. Later still a couple of attempts up on his previous best. He's going to need to find a bit more than that if he's going to trouble the front row. And he's only got a few corners in which to try and do so. Into turn 18 now, and then 19 is just an easy flat to the line. Latest across the line, he does go up to third, just misses out on the front row of the grid by 0.03 of a second, but that's a bit more like it as we've got drivers improving all the while. Keke is a driver I'd be interested to keep an eye on, but he's not on a quick lap at the moment. But I was going to say that he's one driver who was very strong in pace last week, and I expect that he'll be a lot better. He'll be up there in the top 10 by the end of qualifying, but at the moment only 16th quickest as he's returned to the pits. LRB has only got a few more corners to negotiate. He's on a much improved lap over his first attempt, which he'll be happy about. He needs to find a bit more pace if he really wants to trouble towards the top 10 of the field. LRB across the line he goes, and that's up to 15 for 27.3, but that's more closer to the sort of benchmark lap times that you need to be in and around those points positions. I think Girofu's just started another lap. We'll follow him around. Just 5 minutes of a session to go. The race winner from last week up in P4. The driver finished second last week by only thousandths of a second, currently languishing down in 14th. In Gustav, he'll be looking for a lot more time. Girofu's found a bit of pace in sector 1, but it is very marginal. He's going to need to find a bit more than that in the middle sector. But the middle sector for me is where you can gain and lose the most time. It's such a tricky little sequence of corners from turns 12 up to 15 that you really can make all the difference. You know, the fast corners are where the car looks most on rails, most planted, probably most alive, but it's these slow, fiddly corners where the driver can really make all the difference if he can get the feel of the car right. And you see that Girofu's found acres of time in that middle sector, now 0.3 of a second up on where he was previously. I hope that Red Bull in front that's weaving sees Girofu coming. He does indeed. Good driving from Gustav to move out of the way. Milan's just moved back onto the front row of the grid, but for how long? Because I get the sense that this lap could be challenging right for pole position here. Girofu across the line he goes, and he goes to provisional pole. Found a bit more time in the final sector and does a 1:26.6. That's going to take some beating. That looked a super strong lap from the Mercedes driver, and continuing on for his podium last week, he's now sitting on provisional pole. We've got some other drivers on laps. Samba's done a 29.8 first sector, which, as we know, is kind of in the ballpark of where you want to be, so this could be a good lap. Very quick driver. I've seen him race quite a few times before, and I know Samba's got some excellent pace. And wow, what a middle sector that is. Half a second up on his previous best. I said he's got some pace. He might be about to take provisional pole away from Girofu. Let's see here what Samba does. Up towards the final couple of corners then. Just one more corner to negotiate. And then the flat to the floor, to the line. Samba, is he going to take pole? Yes, he is. By 0.005 of a second. Samba now stands on pole position and says to the rest of the field, beat that. We've only really got Amwoy who's currently on a lap. Everyone else sort of preparing for their final efforts. Macho's just started his lap, but Amwoy is the only one currently really going for it, down in 13th place. He's not on a massive improvement at the moment. It's around similar to his last lap time. Can he find a bit more pace? He's decided to pit. He realised he wasn't going to find enough lap time and has quickly made a dash for the pits. Macho, I think, actually may just have improved up to 5th, so he's not on a lap. Got a few drivers out on outlaps at the moment. And we'll go on board with Charlie Moon, who showed some pace in Austria last week, but the race ultimately didn't pan out as he would have liked. To anyone who didn't see the opening round of the season, obviously I've mentioned briefly who was on the podium, but the rest of the points playing positions included Keke, Luke and Nick, Fleddy, Gian, Diogo Silva, Pierre Papi and Block. For you those not racing tonight, we haven't got Block or Diogo Silva. Even though Gian is a reserve, he is racing again tonight, so can take advantage of that. It's the Alpine team of Fleddy and Kieran who have the early advantage in the constructors by 10 points. They're really the only team that both got in the points very solidly last week. Of course, Kieran winning and Fleddy P6. Is Macho on another lap? Let's just have a look. Looks like he is going for another attempt. But we will follow. We're going to switch to Marcel Gruzny, the one driver who desperately needs an improvement over where he is right now. Currently down in 19th place on a 27.7. He'll be hoping for a lot more than that. Currently more than a second away from pole. And with these drivers being so close in terms of ability, 1 second is a huge margin in this field. So Marcel will be looking to try and peg some of that time back. Looks pretty smooth, I have to say, for the first sector. What's his first sector saying? It's a 29.9, half a second improvement. So he's finding a lot of pace on this attempt. And can Marcel move up from his current 19th place? He's definitely looking set to do so at the moment, as long as he doesn't invalidate or make a key mistake. The Aston Martin driver threading his way through this narrow sequence of corners and now into this really tricky section. Really flung the car in there, just hoping it would stick, and it did. And this should be benefiting him in his lap time, and it is. He's found a 3/4 of a second, so he's going to move dramatically up from 19th place. Samba's done for the session, so provisional pole's there to be got at if anyone can take it away from Marcel at the moment. Anyone can take it away from him. There's plenty of drivers out there looking to improve. Is Giroffu and Amwoy going to make the line is a question. Amwoy didn't. He didn't beat the checkered flag. Marcel, first one across the line, moves up to 7th. That's a nice improvement from him. Charlie Moon, we'll see what he can do. He's the next one coming up to the line. Amwoy didn't make the finishing line. Macho is pitted. And let's see then, we've got so many drivers. Roby's improved to P9. He's crossed the checkered flag. Charlie Moon across the line. P15. He won't be happy with that. He'll have hoped for more. Kieran's marginally improving on his P8 at the moment, but that's not really what he would want. Fleddy's done for a session. He's P11, so the Alpines look like they're struggling after last week's heroics at Austria. Kieran across the line, but what a final sector Kieran's just found, and he moves on to provisional pole, seemingly out of nowhere it would seem. Kieran's found an awful lot of time in that final sector and takes provisional pole back. We've got Gian, though, who is out there looking to stop him, and he's currently set to do so, but Gian goes for a spin in the Williams just as it looked like he was going to take provisional pole away. It goes in a blink of an eye. Luke and Nick across the line. He stays 19th. He was super quick last week. One of the quickest drivers, I would have said. So that, for me, is a huge surprise. Kieran, no. Unless Giroffu can take it away from him, Kieran has snatched pole at the death here. And it looks like he has. I don't think anyone out there can stop him. Pierre Papi, what's he up to? I think he's the only driver left. But no, he's not going for it. So Kieran, against all odds, last week's race winner, has snatched pole position away with a super final sector on his last effort. He takes pole ahead of fellow ERT member Samba by 33 thousandths of a second. Great, great effort. Kieran on pole, Samba second, Giroffu third, Gian fourth. Gustav, big shock for him, last week's runner-up down in P18. And Luke and Nick as well, who was way up in the points last week in P5 and way up towards the front of the field throughout. He's another one down in 19th, so it just shows this Miami track is a tough one to master. But Kieran has definitely done so with a great final effort, and he is on pole position for the US/Miami Grand Prix, because we do go to Austin later on in the season. So there is your grid. We've got the rest of the top 10. Milan in 5th, Macho 6th, Later 7th, Marcel in 8th, Keke 9th, Roby, one of the reserves in P10, and LRB just outside the top 10 in 11th place. That is your grid for the race. I believe now we are going to have the lobby being reset up again because due to an audio glitch. So we will leave this lobby and wait for an invite to the race. So just as we wait for an invite to the new lobby, I hope everyone's watching's having a good evening and enjoying the coverage. Of course, we've got F2 on at the same time as well, so plenty of racing to keep you occupied here at PSGL this evening. Of course, F1, F3, F5 and F8 all start at 8 o'clock as well, so plenty more action from the PlayStation tiers over the course of this evening. Of course, Monday is the PlayStation night at PSGL. We've of course got the PC tiers running, the main F1 tier running on Wednesday, with the other tiers running on the Thursday. So of course action throughout the week as always, and plenty of action to keep you entertained. And I get the feeling this F4 race is definitely going to be very entertaining indeed. It should be a lot of fun. And based on the qualifying, we're going to have a super close fight for this win. Kieran looking to make it 2 wins out of 2 from pole, but the margins are that small. I don't get the feeling he's not going to have the easiest of times. Just waiting for the invite to the new lobby. Again, apologies for the slight picture not being the best, but yeah, it's either that or no stream, unfortunately. My internet isn't the best, but as I mentioned earlier, to those who weren't tuning in, Felix, my usual commentator who is alongside me, he should be back next week, and he does usually stream, so yeah, hopefully things will be a lot better next week, and it'll be good to have Felix back alongside me, a super commentator who we've commentated for a number of years, so it should be a lot of fun once he returns. In terms of course, the races coming up ahead, we've got a long season here at PSGL. I say it's a shorter season than normal, but of course, still got 11 races over the course of the season, and a lot of great tracks coming up ahead. I'm a huge fan of this calendar, I have to say. Let's just say this: we've got Belgium coming up next week. Spa always delivers great entertainment. And after Spa, we go to Mexico. Of course, in real life, Sergio Perez getting all the support in that stadium section. And then we go to Suzuka for round 5. And then at the end of August, we head to Monza. So plenty of great tracks coming up ahead. And we've got another 5 tracks before we get to round 11, the finale, which will be many drivers' home races it's Silverstone that ends off the season. And of course, we have another trip to the United States before that, the penultimate round at Austin. Sorry about that. I just had to quickly take a drink, and we are back in the lobby. So obviously it's a bit fiddly at the moment, but with the audio issues, it's best to have a new lobby created after qualifying. We should be underway very shortly for what should be a really entertaining race. I'm very much looking forward to it. Someone asking restart the race? No. Basically, this was decided before the race started that there'd be a new lobby created for the race because there are some audio issues with the game at the moment, which restarting the lobby should solve. So it was completely planned. There's no issues or anything like that, and we've got all 20 drivers back in the lobby, so we should be getting into the racing action very soon. 21 to miss qualifying. We've got Kieran on pole, Samba alongside him in the front row, ERT boys locking out the front of the grid. And then you've got Giroffu in P3 in the Mercedes. Ironically, Kieran and Giroffu, P1 and P3, exactly where they finished last week's race in Austria. With a Samba who wasn't actually racing last week, as he's a reserve, and there was no spot for him to fill, being the exception. So we've got all 20 drivers in the lobby. Hopefully we are getting underway shortly. Just see if there's any update in the F4 chat while we wait. We're just, of course, setting up the lobby, the grid at the moment as well, because of course, with a reset of the lobby, you have to do sort out the grid, make sure it's in order. Nice to hear from one of the drivers in the chat. Noziek letting us know that hoping that the race is better than a bottled qualifying, he said. So obviously not too happy with how qualifying went. We're ready to go though, and of course qualifying may decide the grid, but this is where all the points are won, and you can, as we saw last week, recover from difficult moments, positions where you weren't exactly doing too well. You can recover from those moments and still score some very good points. So here we go. We're getting ready for lights out here at Miami for round 2 of the PSGL season. Should be a lot of fun. Just a reminder as well, PSGL is sponsored by GT Omega. If you head to the GT Omega website, you can get a discount on all their products by using the code PSGL at checkout. You get 5% off. And also, we're sponsored by Grid Rival. If you want to join our PSGL Fantasy League over at Grid Rival, you can do so. There is a link in the description. And it's basically an F1 fantasy league that basically runs off a real life F1 season. Of course, we are at a summer break in real F1 right now, but it gives you even more time to go over there, choose your team, and get involved for when the F1 season restarts at Spa in about 4 weeks, I believe. And we're almost ready for lights out here. Of course, there'll be a formation lap. The drivers get ready, visors down, and any last nerves and cobwebs shaken off and just full focus ahead of the 28 laps, I believe there is at Miami. 29, there we go. I knew it was one of the three. And already we've got problems with Milan leaving the session, so that's not ideal at all. The driver that starts 4th on the grid, and Giroffu actually starting P3, should be starting P3, I believe. Is there an issue with the grid, I wonder? Has the grid not been set up quite right? Yeah, there's going to be another restart. The grid hasn't been set up correctly. I don't think that's a fault of the host. I believe that's a fault of the game. The host did set up the grid right, but for some reason it's booted Giroffu to the back of the grid when he should have been starting P3, so not too ideal. So I think we're going to be getting a restart here. So we'll leave the lobby and prepare for another restart. So we will be underway for action here at PSGL F4, hopefully very soon, but sadly nothing much we can do about these issues at the moment. We just hope that action is underway as soon as possible, because this race, I think, is shaping up to be an absolute cracker once we do get underway. But these waiting times aren't going to do much for these drivers' nerves and bottle. They're going to be, racing drivers, they just want to get on with it. Get on with things. Delays are not part of their plan. You see how difficult it is in real life when there's a red flag and drivers almost have to reset their minds. You get so pumped up and ready to start at a certain time, and then you've almost got to come down. You need to build yourself back up again. So these drivers will be going through that process now, and interesting to see what that does when we do eventually get started here in F4. Just going to leave the lobby so that nobody watching the stream gets confused. We are having a restart. Don't want anyone to think that's a race actually starting. Just try and keep you up to date with what's going on at the moment. We're just waiting for the lobby to be reset again. It has been reset once before, but there was unfortunately an issue when the grid was being set up, so we're just waiting for an invite to the next lobby. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, everything will be okay. But yeah, to everyone watching, I hope you are having a nice evening. We're a few weeks past, certainly in the UK, the well, in my opinion, shocking weather, but the heat wave that we had, and it's a lot more pleasant now, that's for sure. But I know that we have a lot of viewers from around Europe, in fact, around the world in general. So, hello to everybody, and hope you're having a nice Monday evening. Not everyone's favourite day of the week, but when you've got PSGL racing, it definitely makes it a little better, that's for sure. Of course, some news today on the F1 game, but we are getting Portimao added back to the game on time trial multiplayer, and there's another mode as well, but I've forgotten it. But yeah, mainly time. Obviously, multiplayer, but probably the main key pick out for the league races among us. Obviously means that certainly next season you may see Portimao on the PSGL calendar. I don't want to speculate, but it is a very popular track, so having that option, I'd say there's a decent chance that it will be on there. Hopefully, I know I've seen potentially the option of having more tracks added to the game. Plenty of tracks that I would love to see on the F1 game include Hockenheim, Nürburgring. I'm not just saying that for Felix's sake with him being German, but it would be nice to have a German track on the game. It doesn't feel right in F1 that we don't have a German Grand Prix anymore, given the rich heritage that Germany's provided F1 with. You know, you got Michael Schumacher, Sebastian Vettel, Mercedes. You know, so many incredible drivers and of course and teams as well that have come from Germany, and we don't have a German Grand Prix right now. So that would be nice to see. I think Mugello's been rumoured to potentially go on the game. Sepang, I think that's a track we'd all love to see back in real life. Sepang used to deliver some absolutely brilliant racing and some pretty crazy weather at times as well. So that would be a really good addition. And yeah, plenty of good tracks you could easily pick that would be great additions to the game. I do have an invite, so let's join. We're back in the lobby. But yeah, on the topic of race tracks, while we're on the subject of tracks we'd like to see added to the game, um, let me know, guys, in the comments below, what track would you most like to see added to this game? I think for me personally, I would. I don't know why, but I really like Istanbul. I'd love to see Istanbul back on the game. I think that for me, it just brings back so many dramatic moments, Istanbul, into my mind when it comes to real life racing, and it is a really nice track to drive. Of course, the infamous Turn 8. Probably quite easy flat in these cars, but even so, the thrill that you get driving through it, I think for me that would be the track that I would most like to see come back on the game. No question about it. But there's a lot of good tracks that they could add, and Portimao is definitely one that I'm happy to see go on to the game, and happy to see more of. That's for sure. Just waiting for to see once again. They've got to sort out the grid. Hopefully, fingers crossed, the game behaves, and we can get underway shortly because the grid is set up right. A couple of the other streams, I believe, because obviously there's races going on elsewhere. We've got F5, F8, F6 is now up and running as well. I see. Um, I believe there's some issues getting into the just issues setting up a stream. I think there's a few other tiers that are struggling with that problem. So there may be some races tonight that are not running on the PSGL channel, but the commentators, I believe, are still streaming to their own individual YouTube channels, and they will be uploaded as videos afterwards. So even when the racing's done tonight, you may still have some races to look forward to from the likes of F5 and I believe maybe F7 as well. So yeah, unfortunately not too ideal, but still there should still be plenty of racing going on. Of course, F1 will be running as normal. I believe that gets underway very shortly, actually. The stream, so be sure to check that out. Among many of us, F2 very much underway, and hopefully we'll have racing here soon as well. That's definitely the plan. And thank you for all of you that's still tuning in. There's a lot of people still tuning in, so thank you a lot for that. Yeah, this is the second restart. The first restart, there was an issue. The grid was set up correctly, but then the game did something in transition, and it was all of a sudden wrong when we got into the lobby. So it had to be restart had to be done again. Hopefully this time there's no such issues. But we've still got around 40 people watching this, which is a massive credit to you all. It's a lot of patience. Completely appreciate that. Again, just to remind you, considering it has been quite a while now since we saw qualifying, as we get ready to ready up, it's Kieran that starts from pole position, the race winner from last week at Austria. Took pole right at the death. We've got Sambra alongside him in the Alfa Romeo, one of our reserves. Giroffu should be in third in the Mercedes. And I believe Milan was P4. He may have been P5. It's been quite a while since qualifying now, but even I'm struggling to remember past sort of the first three or four drivers. Gian, actually, correction, Gian is P4 in the Williams, but he was set for pole position until a late spin cost him on his last attempt. So Gian starting fourth probably feels like he should be on pole. And then it's Milan who completes the top five in the McLaren. But we have got some people readying up now, so I'm just going to double check if we are nearing a start. So Looks like we are ready to start now, and the host just providing proof that he has got the lobby set up, the grid set up as it should be. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we third time lucky, I guess, if you like. I'd say second time lucky, but nevertheless. Hopefully this time we can get underway. As we build into the grid. Got some rumours in the F4 paddock that we have some rain about, so this could be about to get very interesting. I don't think many of these drivers would have been asking for rain, but it may be what they've got. No, it's bright sunshine. I think I may have just fallen for something there, but yeah, nevertheless, yeah. So we're bright sunshine now, so everything's fine. Hopefully the grid is as it should be. I'm just going to keep an eye on the chat because, of course, they will be able to see before I will how the grid is looking. So the quieter the chat is, hopefully the better the situation is, and hopefully it means everything has run smoothly. So far, it appears so good. So we might be ready to start here in F4, which is fantastic news. And hopefully all of our patience is rewarded with a really exciting race. I think Noziek, who commented it was raining, has fooled a couple of people, including myself. But no, bright sunshine above Miami, just as it should be. It's like the picturesque view of Miami that you would expect. And the grid, from what I can see, looks absolutely perfect. So, yep, here we go in formation lap. We are ready to get started here in Miami for PSGL F4 round 2 of the season. And I reckon it's going to be worth the wait. Good luck to all the drivers. And I think it's going to be... I've got a full 20-car grid here ready to take on this new track. Who's going to be the first ever PSGL F4 winner at Miami? Of course, we've never raced here before, so this will be the inaugural winner in the F4 tier at this track. Kieran leading the way, looking to make it 2 wins from 2. He's so far perfect in terms of points. Not just a win last week, but also the fastest lap of the race. But he's got some very quick competition behind him. And quite incredibly, if I believe I worked this out, I think we've got 9 different teams in the top 10, which is quite incredible. The only team that doesn't have a driver in the top 10 of the grid is the Ferrari team. But we even know then how quick Luke and Nick is in particular after he got a top 5 finish last week. So I would be surprised if he didn't. I'd be surprised if he stayed there for sure. Kieran leading the way now around the final couple of corners. The drivers getting ready to line up on the grid. It's been a pretty clean formation lap from what I can see. The drivers now very much just looking to get underway. And if you tuned out of the stream because of a delay, you've got to get back here now because the race is about to get underway. And we've got 29 really exciting laps in front of us, I believe. A quick look at the tyres, actually, just before we get underway. Wow. All 20 drivers on the hard tyres, at the exception of Gustav, who's running the mediums, taking a bit of a gamble after a disappointing qualifying. As we wait for the final few cars to line up, Gian just disqualified right at the end there. Not what he would have wanted. And take 3, but we are ready. PSGL F4 about to get underway here at Miami. And it's an excellent start from Kieran. Looks like he's got the lead covered as we go down to turn 1, but it's a McLaren of Milan who's made an exceptional start, looking to squeeze in between the Alfa Romeo and the Mercedes, but it's Kieran who leads away, Samba second, Giroffi still in third, Milan in fourth, and Gian losing the position further down. Oh, and we've got a bit of carnage further down. That's like Milan potentially running a little bit wide there, losing a few positions. Roby from P10 all the way up to P5. We've got Noziak who's struggling at the back. Looks like he's had a moment, but it's Kieran who leads away. Samba second. Looks like Debo Zillaire is the latest one to have problems. Further down, him and Noziak struggling at the back. Hopefully not with too much damage. Latest now is round. What's happened to him? He's spun into the wall. He's got damage on the front wing, and that's an absolute disaster for him as he tries to recover. Kieran leads away with top 3 as you were, in fact the top 4 as you were, but it's Roby, the outstanding starter, up 5 places up to P5 as we've got fighting happening further down the field with Jarman LRB battling like absolute crazy. What on earth is this coming into turn 12? That's absolutely bonkers. Marcel and Gustav going side by side. This isn't an area of a track you really want to go side by side through, and I wonder if Gustav just clipped his front wing there. He was run out of room a little bit, and yet there's front wing damage on that Red Bull. So a disaster for him in P12, and Milan struggling a little bit as well. He's lost a few more positions. You can see both AlphaTauris have made their way past him. He's coming into the pits, so it looks like he's got some pretty bad damage on that car. As Roby looks to make up more ground. You can see him right behind Gian. And Giroffi right behind Samba as well. Kieran starting to pull away at the front over a second margin. But he has now over his ERT neighbour Samba. Latest coming into the pits, and he has decided enough is enough. His race ending on lap 1. Gustav continuing on with it despite his front wing damage. Otherwise it will be a double disaster for the Red Bull team. But Latest had enough. Fleddy making a move on Gustav. You can see that Gustav's wing damage won't be helping him despite the superior tyres. Those medium tyres should be giving him extra grip, but not with the broken front wing that you can see on the left hand side. But he's coming back at Fleddy. Is he? Yeah, down the inside. He's looking for a way through. Oh, it's going to be squeezed slightly there. Fleddy, to his credit, gave him the room and maintains the advantage ahead. Well, that was going super close there as they now thread their way through this difficult sequence of corners. So frustrating for the drivers who will just want to try and go quicker than what they can. Just watching Roby here, who is trying to make a move on Gian, who just looks to be a bit struggling compared to the drivers in front of him at this stage of the Grand Prix, and is under some pressure. The two AlphaTauris running in tandem, P6 and P7. Behind Milan, of course, now at the back after his pit stop. DRS enabled, so of course if you're within a second of a car in front, you can activate the DRS and get some help down the straight, and I feel like Roby will be very happy indeed to have that DRS help. Let's see what he can do. He's right behind Gian. He's got no pressure from behind, so you get the feeling here once they get to the DRS activation point that he's going to be in a strong position to potentially take P4 away from Gian. Kieran leading away still. Marcel's just picked up a penalty, currently running in P10, but picking up a penalty at this early stage of the race is going to hamper him for the rest of proceedings. Kieran under pressure from Samba. You can see there the gap coming down, and in Roby's attempts to make a move, he's ran too deep and has lost valuable time and just maintains his advantage over Keke behind, but he's going to have a lot of hard work to do again to get back up to Gian. Samba looks very dangerous though behind Kieran, that's for sure. They are ERT mates, and with Samba being a reserve, it'll be interesting to see what his approach is here. Does he attack Kieran, or does he sort of play it a little bit safe? He's not going for a move just yet. Wasn't quite close enough running through the final few corners. Giroffi hanging on pretty well behind. As we enter lap 4, Kieran does the fastest lap, but it doesn't last very long. Samba takes it away in 1:31.0, so he's pushing hard to try and make a move. Runs a little bit deep into turn 1 and just loses a little bit of ground. But it's fair to say the top 3 are just starting to pull away from Gian, who's struggling, and Luca Nick has crashed out. Oh, he hasn't crashed out, he's retired in the pits, sorry. He has come into the pits and called it a day, so he scored good points in Austria, but he won't be backing that up tonight. Luke and Nick becomes our second retirement of the race. And him and Latus, I believe Latus also scored points in the first race, so not good for either of them two. Scored points in the opening race, and now they're both out early on here in Miami. Just checking, actually, Latus did not score points. He got 12. He was running high up in that race. I remember quite well, actually, but he was running high up in that race. But no, unfortunately, didn't score points. So it's 2 non-scores for the Red Bull driver. Gustav hanging on pretty well in the other Red Bull, P12, with some pretty severe damage. And is Giroffu here potentially in position to attack Samba? I wonder. He's not, but Roby is. Here comes Roby then, making a move on Gian. You have to say this move's been coming for a couple of laps now. Gian doesn't really fight it off. Roby up into P4, and you have to say he's really been the outstanding driver so far in this race, from P10 on the grid all the way up to P4. He's making some outstanding gains in that Haas. And Macho now doing the fastest lap. He's made his way past his AlphaTauri teammate Keke and has made his way up to the back of this group. So the 2 AlphaTauris could be getting involved pretty shortly. It's getting very close up front though. Look at this. I don't know if Kieran's made an error somewhere, but Samba and Giroffu right behind him now. And key now for Samba is, can he maintain close ground before they get to the DRS zone? That's going to be key if he wants to make a move for the lead. The dirty air effect on this game is a little bit stronger than it was on the last one. So we'll see if Samba can make a move stick. Roby already making some pretty decent inroads into the top 3, so he's one to keep an eye on for sure. As they thread their way around this picturesque Miami track, of course, the sort of fake harbour, if you like, fake marina. An interesting touch, polarizes opinions with fans, but it certainly doesn't make it look bad, that's for sure. Marcel with a second penalty, and Gustav, has he had a problem further down the field, I wonder? We've got problems here. Gustav's recovered, but down to P15 now. And Gustav trying to make his way back past Pierre Papi. What on earth's happened here? We've got a change. Samba's made a mistake somewhere, because Samba has lost P2 to Giroffu. And we've got a move further down from Macho on Gian. Down the inside to turn 1, giving him the room. They're going to continue to go side by side for the next sequence of corners. Great move from Macho up to P5. And that was a really solid move. Gian just continuing just to slide backwards somewhat. But what happened to Samba? That's the question I want to know, because he has lost P2 and lost an awful lot of ground. And that's a big blow for him. Giroffu now up to P2 and will want to chase down Kieran. Keke now past Gian as well. So what is happening to Gian here? Losing all sorts of time. He's got the DRS. Is he going to try and come back at Keke's north? He's going to have to make do with slots. So both AlphaTauri is passing him in the space of a lap. Keke ran a bit deep there, but thankfully for him, there was nowhere for the Williams driver to go to make the switch back. So Keke takes over P6. Gian just slipping a few places down the road now. He'll want to hang on to that group of cars. He won't want to lose touch, but he's got a decent margin over LRB, the next driver. So he can hopefully try and now calm down and get back to some consistent pace, because we saw in qualifying just how quick he was. So the pace is there for sure if he can just find that consistency again and not continue a bit of a downward spiral. But that margin back to LRB may just be his saving grace. Kieran out of the DRS of Giroffu now in a strong position. Gian still on the back of Keke, not wanting to let the AlphaTauri driver get away. And Marcel's just got a penalty for speeding in the pit lane, so I get the feeling he may be about to retire here, and he does. That's our third retirement of the race, sadly. Gustav has been into the pits as well. And Marcel, with the penalties racking up and him down in P16, has decided that enough is enough and he's going to call it a day. Becomes our third retirement of proceedings. Here goes Jan then, looking for a move on Keke, but can't quite make it stick. Didn't quite have the speed that he needed down the straight to make it work. He's got less ERS available to him as well than Keke, so that's going to be a bit of a blow as well. But you can see the problem that they've got is that Keke is just really slow at the moment. I don't know what the issue is, but he's lost so much ground to the leading 5 in front that these two are getting a bit attached. And it's becoming a 5-way fight up front, which Macho is firmly on the back of now. I believe he still has the fastest lap of the race, and he's showing some decent speed here to firmly involve himself in the lead group of cars. Giroffu can't get within the DRS Akira, and he may come under threat from Samba as a result of that. And it's becoming sort of a battle from second down to fifth now, you would say. While Keke and Jan continue to fight further down, but you can see the time they're losing to the group in front, and even losing a bit of time to LRB behind as well. So Keke got past Jan, and we thought he would sort of follow his teammate up to the lead group of cars, but it hasn't panned out that way, and Jan is losing a lot of time here. If he does have more pace, he needs to show it now. Samba seems to have recovered from that earlier error and is right back up to the back of Giroffu. Of course, I suspect these guys will be going hard to medium on a one-stop strategy. All these guys on hard tyres at the moment, so there's no alteration in the tyres there. Is Samba close enough to make a dive on Giroffu? No, he's not. He just almost tried to spook the Mercedes driver a little bit, but Giroffu was wise to that. We've got potentially a battle happening further down. I want to keep an eye on Jaume is right behind LRB. Is he going to make a move into turn 1, I wonder? He's not really using his ERS. It's not particularly a long run down to turn 1, so you'd have to be super close to really have a chance of making a move stick. So back to this lead group. Kieran just maintaining that 1.3, 1.4 second advantage that he needs just to have a clear bit of daylight. But of course, if there's a pit stops here, could make all the difference with so little margin between these top 5. Let's see if there's going to be a move here, because I tell you what, Samba's under a lot of pressure. But here comes Macho making a move on the outside of Roby. Is he close enough to make it stick? Yes, he is. Macho sneaking through. Roby looking for a way past Samba and ends up losing a position rather than gaining one. Macho taking over P4. Some nice stuff indeed. But well, I say nice stuff, and then he goes and gets a penalty literally 10 seconds later. So that's my first commentator's curse of the season, I believe. And my apologies to Macho on that one. But a long way to go, of course. But he's not done yet. I think he wants to make a move on Samba as well. Here he goes. He's not content with making a one move in one lap. He wants to go for the inside on Samba as well. Samba leaves the door open for him. And Macho makes the move stick up the inside. Up to P3 now. He's making some bold moves. Here's the AlphaTauri driver now. And he'll try and chase after Giroffu, who hasn't really escaped much further up the road than he was before. See them winding away through the opening part of the lap there. Samba lost a position, but still very much in the hunt. He won't be panicking at all just yet. And he probably suspects that Macho might be able to attack Giroffu, but he is running exceptionally low on ERS, is the AlphaTauri driver. Obviously making those moves on the previous lap. Obviously would have taken a lot out of his ERS. So he's maybe just got to calm down for a lap or two before going on the attack again. Looking all too comfortable for Kieran at the moment, stretching his lead out now to 1.8 seconds, and there doesn't seem to be anyone in this group who really has an answer to that kind of pace. on a consistent basis. Oh, and Samba going for a late move on Macho. I don't know if he meant to go for the move or if he just broke too late. But Macho comes into the pits, and that was all a bit late and clumsy from Samba. I'm sure he'll be the first to admit that probably wasn't what he wanted to do. I don't know if he was going for the move. It was all very late. It almost looked like he just didn't brake in time and tried to avoid the AlphaTauri, but it was too late. Macho into the pits, and that has really broken up this group of cars. Roby ahead of Samba now, and Giroffi with some breathing space. Not what I expected to see there at all. LRB still on the back of Jaum. He did lose the position to the Williams driver, but he's still very much in contention with Fleddy just behind the pair of them. Bit of not really. Like I said, I'm not overly convinced that was an attempt at an overtake, unfortunately. I think that was just, one of those just instances where loss of concentration and just didn't brake when required. Samba now picks up a penalty. It really hasn't been a good lap for him. And what on earth, Kieran's had a bit of a mistake as well, because Giroffi's all of a sudden in the DRS range of him. Macho's pitted, I'm guessing, for a set of medium tyres. He'll just try and get those to the end from here. Whether that's possible or not, I'm not too sure. I reckon it probably will be, but he won't have the best of tyre life come the end of a race. We've got Jan in the pits then. He's making an early stop. Let's go on board with Jan, see what tyres see if there's any front wing repairs going on. No, Macho comes in, he's speeding in the pit lane. I get the feeling Macho's about to retire, and he is. That's a real shame for Macho. He was having a really good race of it. He won't be happy at all, and you can understand his frustrations at that one. Macho becomes our 4th retirement of the race, sadly. Kieran, I don't know if he's had a bad lap, but he had a bad lap last lap around, but he doesn't seem to have recovered either. He's now under some pressure from Giroffi for this race lead. Roby and Samba are a couple of seconds back. Kieran will be looking just to regain his composure from whatever small mistake it was that he made, and just trying to get back on the front foot. Got a battle still going on further down with Samba on the back of Roby. Just keep an eye on that scrap. LRB right on the back of Jaum, so keep an eye on that fact. On that scrap with Alfa Romeo driver Fleddy still involved as well. This group of 3 have been quietly going about their business. They're not in the lead group, but they're in contention for some pretty decent points here if they can keep this going. And we've got a change for P3. Roby has been overtaken by Samba. Down at the corner where, of course, the carnage kicked off a few laps ago with him and Macho. But this time Samba gets the move done and is back up into P3. But you can see the margin that they've lost to the top 2 ahead, who are very much in a race of their own now. And Giroffi is in a pretty strong position here to potentially take the lead from Kieran. Here we go. Is he going to be close enough to mount an attack? He's going to go for it, is he? No, not quite. He was nearly caught up enough to make a move into the corner. But I guess with the margin these two have got right now, Giroffi probably doesn't really want to take any unnecessary risks. If he can go past Kieran, then fair enough. But it's not really worth it unless there's a clear move up the inside, which, once again, there wasn't into turn 1 just on this occasion. So he slots in behind. We're approaching half distance here at Miami. And still Kieran and Giroffu leading the way with 2 of the podium finishes from last week. Very much the class of the field so far today. We've got Fleddy in the pits now as well for Alpine as Gian does the fastest lap on those medium tyres. Gian just showing he does have good pace. We saw it in qualifying. But we just haven't seen it yet in this race so far. Giroffu's in a really strong position here. Is he going to go for it on this occasion? He is. Giroffu goes down the inside. Kieran gives in the room. Still gets squeezed a little bit. Kieran looking to defend in the Alpine and does defend the line. Fair play. He gave him room and still managed to take enough speed through the corner to maintain the lead. And now Giroffu picks up a penalty to boot as well. So double whammy for Giroffu there. He couldn't make the overtake and now he's got his first penalty of the race. And you can see Samba and Roby just coming back a little bit at the leading pair, Keke as well. It definitely has broken up this field as the race has progressed. A few incidents here and there, and just ultimately some drivers just not able to keep up with the front running pace. We've still got a really interesting battle here up front. Giroffu will remember, of course, Kieran's got the win in the fastest lap last week, and he knows he won't want Kieran to repeat that this week because you take 2 wins from the first 2 races and you're already looking at a very sizable championship advantage going forward. So Kieran will be happy with how it's going as Giroffu runs a little bit wide there, a little bit scruffy as he tries to follow the Alpine driver, but he manages to keep it on the road. I don't know if he'll have got any sort of penalty for that. We've got more drivers in the pits now as well. We've got Noziek, Amway, I believe LRB, who was actually lost out to Jalman Fleddy in the pit stop phase. So pit stops just starting to happen around half distance now. Good tyre life on the medium tyre means that you can run them a bit longer than perhaps you would as normally. So I wonder if we're going to see any pit stops here for these leading sort of 5 cars on this lap. Giroffu might be thinking about a potential undercut on Kieran here. It could be the best way of getting in front and potentially keeping the lead. Is Giroffu going to pit this lap? If Kieran pits, I half expect Kieran might pit here just to cover Giroffu's plans off. And he has done. They're both in the pits at the same time. Oh, I don't know about that. If I was Giroffu, I'd potentially would have done whatever Kieran didn't do. But he has followed him into the pits. Maybe didn't have enough time to react. The top 3 all carry on. The other 3, Samba, Roby and Keke, all carry on. So it's as you were for those 3. But the top 2 in the pits now. And they should come out in some very decent clear air. Kieran's still in front of Giroffu. So the pit stops didn't change that order. Kieran's going to come out the pits now. And Giroffu, and they've just come out in front of Debo Zillaire. So that's worked out beautifully for them. They've got some nice clear air in which to push now. And I don't really think Samba and Roby are going to be able to make the overcut work if that's what their strategy is. Samba's still under threat from Roby. Keke must have made a mistake, you know, because he's dropped back massively. He was about a second behind, about a second or 2 behind, but he's lost about, I'd say, a second and a half to 2 seconds in the last lap. So something's gone wrong for the AlphaTauri driver. And now Samba and Roby have a clear margin over Keke. As Milan does the fast lap of the race, running at the back of the field. He showed some good pace in qualifying, qualified in top 5, but I believe was involved in a few incidents earlier on in the race. But just showing he does have the pace. Don't know if that'll be frustrating for him more than uplifting, but Samba and Roby both in the pits now. And I suspect Keke may join him. Look at that, Roby all locked up into the pits. And Keke follows suit, so all the top 5 have now pitted. You can see Gian attacking Debo Zillaire behind his 2. Kieran once again under threat from Giroffu. It'll be interesting to see how the medium tyres compare. We saw this in last week's race at the once they switched tyres, it helped and hindered certain drivers. There was definitely some drivers who preferred running on mediums to hards, and then others who were a bit more the other way round. So it'll be interesting to see what this does now that they've changed tyres, but Giroffu looking a little bit more confident, you'd have to say, right now. Samba and Roby have rejoined the track and not too far behind these two, so that's not worked out too badly for them, really. Gian, though, I tell you what, the undercut for him has worked superbly. We know he pitted super early for these medium tyres. There was no damage involved either. And he may struggle later on with some bit of tyre wear, but right now it's propelled him right back into this battle for the final podium spot. Giroffu going for the race lead on Kieran, but not quite close enough to make a move stick. They're just starting to pull away from Samba once again. Right now, you would have to say at least that it is between these two for the race victory. They just look to have a bit of a pace advantage over those guys behind them. Giroffu didn't have a particularly nice run there through turns 14 and 15, and won't, as a result, won't be in a position to attack. Is Roby any closer? Gustav picks up a penalty. Roby is a bit closer, but I don't think he really went for the overtake on this occasion. As Giroffu heads across the line, I tell you what, he's got a much better exit out there. He's not close enough into turn one, but if he can just keep that close throughout the rest of his lap, he's going to have a great opportunity when they get to the DRS zone after the turns 14 and 15. It's where he struggled on the last time around, but he may potentially make it work in his favour. He can just get a clearer run through. Look at this overhead shot, beautiful shot here. You can see how much the drivers are pushing through this part of the track. Keke picks up a penalty, currently running in P6. That's going to affect his chances of going any higher and potentially put him under threat from some of the drivers behind. Giroffu going for the lead, going for the outside. He didn't need to wait for the DRS. He's going for it now around the outside. Kieran makes his Alpine as big as he can, but Kieran spun. Kieran has spun. His attempt to get on the power has gone horribly wrong. And the race winner from last time out, who has been leading all the way through this race, we've seen the first cracks in his armour. He's made a mistake. And Kieran drops down to P5 after that spin. And it'll be interesting to see how he recovers after that. There was no contact with Giroffu. It was pure and simple his attempt to get on the power, and the rear end just could not handle that amount of throttle input. And Kieran goes round. Milan has just retired from the race, unfortunately, 5th retirement, but we've just seen a rare mistake from Kieran, and his chances of making it 2 wins in a row potentially going up in smoke along with that spin as Roby goes down the inside of Samba into turn 1, and he now takes P2 away from the Alfa Romeo. Roby up to P2, and as it stands, he would be the race winner with Giroffu's penalty, so Roby all of a sudden becomes a new favourite to win this race. But just as it looks like Kieran might be heading for a second win in a row, we've just seen a mistake from him. Not what he would have wanted at all. Roby to try just pulling away a little bit from Samba here. But just see if Kieran now can recover from that mistake and start to come back at the drivers in front. We know he's got a lot of pace to burn. Oh, we see there the rear end of that Haas just stepping out on Roby. Oh, you can see again there, he couldn't get the power down as he wanted to. That was a really poor exit, and this is going to give Samba all the ammunition he needs to have a go back at the Haas driver. Is Samba going to be close enough into the braking zone? It's going to be close. He's going to go for it. No, he doesn't. He opts out of the move. And Roby there, just again, the throttle input just a bit too strong, and he gathered it up just in time. Kieran is making some inroads on Gian, so that could be a battle to keep an eye on. He did set the fastest lap briefly, but Keke behind him has just taken that away. So Keke very much following him up to Gian, so that could be a three-way fight for P4 very soon. Giroffu doing what he can with his penalty, but of course Roby, if he stays within 3 seconds, will inherit the win if the penalty situation stays as it is. for Kieran as he's now within the DRS of Gian. He's a man on a mission after that first real error that we've seen from him this season. And that error will have the eyes lighting up of some of these other drivers in the field who may have started to think Kieran might be pretty hard to stop this season. But there is a mistake in him. He's got Gian still in front of him. He's actually slipped out of the DRS range. Has on this occasion, he got Fleddy there trying to break the slipstream of Gian behind him. So you can see that just going on in the background. Samba getting ever closer to Roby. And we've got Keke actually going for a move here. I think Kieran had a bit of a slow run out of a corner. And now he's going to have to go defensive. But he keeps the position for now. Kieran just looking a little bit ragged at the moment. A few mistakes. Just creeping into his armour. And Keke looking ever menacing behind him. The drivers wind their way around through his fast opening section of track. Kind of reminds you a bit of Jeddah for a few corners. And then definitely doesn't remind you of Jeddah when you get to the mid part of a lap. There we go, the DRS activated. Is Keke close enough to mount an attack on Kieran? Maybe not on this occasion, but he's getting very close. No doubt about it here. If he can stay close, Kieran's going to be under a lot of pressure here. Joffrey leads away by 3 seconds. With that penalty, that will be enough for him right now to keep a win. And we've got Samba going for the move on Roby, trying to retake P2. Roby hasn't made inroads into Joffrey. And Samba's decided, you know what, I'm going to try and make inroads instead. But of course he does have a penalty. And is that Roby going round? Oh, I think he nearly did, you know. He had to gather that back up. You could see the rear end of the car going just as he went out of shot. But he managed to just gather it back up in time. But he has lost a bit of lap time doing so. What can Fleddy do here against Jaume's right in the back of him and the other Alpine? The Alpine, the 10-point lead in the constructors after round 1, but it hasn't been smooth sailing tonight. But they're still in pretty strong positions, both still in with a decent chance of some good points. We're here on lap 22 of proceedings here in F4. Roby still right on the back of Samba. These two trying to find some way to gain on Joffrey, but they can't manage it at the moment. Joffrey's got it under control out front, and I tell you what, as it stands, I believe he would take the lead of a championship potentially back from Kieran. So it's not going Kieran's way all of a sudden. Kieran still has a shot potentially of a podium, certainly a 4th place. So he's still got positions to fight for. You can see Roby's got no ERS to use, so you can see how much he's struggling to keep up with Samba in front. Joffrey with a 3.5 second lead now. He looks very comfortable out front, you have to say. Fleddy currently in P8. She's still on the back of Jaume, but can't make a move as of yet. Let's go a bit further down, just on the outside of the points. We've got Charlie Moon. I was about to say Charlie Moon making a move on Noziek, but it's all gone wrong for him. He's spun round and he's dropped down to P14. The only person behind now is Gustav, who has not had the race he would have wanted after a strong opener in Austria. Currently it's Amwoy who's rounding up the points paying positions. Here's Roby, still on the back of Samba. Neither of them can do anything about Giraffe, who's just maintaining that 3.4 second margin that he needs to, as it stands, take a very impressive win here at Miami. He forced Kieran into a mistake when he went for a move around the outside. Kieran, in his eagerness to defend, stamped on the loud pedal too quickly and did a full 360 that's dropped him down to 5th. And since then, Giroffu's had this race under control. But it is still pretty close to that penalty. Roby's still in contention to snatch it away. And of course, Giroffu needs to avoid picking up any more penalties, as that could potentially ruin his chances of a race win. So look at position changes from the start. Then Giroffu up to Samba stage where he is. Roby, as I said, really impressive at the start. Went from about 10th place to 4th in a space of about 3 or 4 laps. Super impressive stuff. And since then, been firmly in contention for those podium positions. So he's been outstanding drive for sure. A lot of drivers dropping down that had great qualifyings that have sadly not finished the race. Got Jam up 6, Amwoy up 7, also got Pierre Papi up 7. Pretty good from Pierre Papi, given that his qualifying was not the strongest, but he's up to 13th now. Roby going for the move on the Samba, it would look like, but he's just going to run out a straight line. In fact, I think he actually stopped using his DRS about halfway down that straight, so actually didn't want to make the move, which is a little bit puzzling, because if he wants to try and win this race, he really needs to peg the margin back to Giroffu now. Let's see, under braking, he's not quite close enough to Samba to make a move. Kieran, though, has found himself on the back of Gian, so Kieran looking to make a move to get back up to 4th, potentially. Giroffu's margin, look at that now, over 4 seconds. He's just got this one under control. It's all in his hands right now. Jan looking nervously in his mirror as he will see Kieran and Keke right behind him. Kieran might not be angry at Jan, but he'll probably potentially have a bit of anger towards himself, and that may mean he's super aggressive here when trying to pass Jan. But Jan might just be starting to lose his tyres. Of course, he did go for that big undercut early on, so he's got much older medium tyres than the ones around him. Let's have a look, actually. Tyres, yeah, you can see he's done 13 laps on the mediums as opposed to 8 or 9 on the cars behind, so much older tyres on that Williams, and he may just be starting to feel it. Is Kieran in a position to make a move? He's not using the ERS as of yet. Is he close enough to dive down the inside? He thinks about it, but dives back in to the toe of the Williams. Oh, look at that, Gian desperate to try and get on the throttle, and now he's going to be super at risk here. Surely this is the opportunity Kieran needs to make a move. He's going around the outside into turn 1. What's Gian going to do? He's trying to hold it around the outside line, but with a better tyres, a better grip, a better traction, Kieran makes that move into P4. And nothing Gian could do, and he may potentially have to look in his mirrors again with Keke behind, or he may try and fight back. We shall see. Lap 26 here, and Keke now right in position to get past Gian as well. They've both got the DRS, but that might not matter. Keke might just have a straight line speed advantage anyway. He does. Keke goes down the inside. Is he going to make the move? Stick. Oh, super close. I tell you what, that was super late on the brakes on Gian, but he's barely made the corner. Keke going to try and hold it around the outside. He'll then have the inside line for the next turn, but Gian determined not to give that place up, and he keeps hold of P5 despite the utmost efforts of AlphaTauri behind. That was super defending from Gian, right to the limit as much as he could, but he kept hold of that position, but it may be in vain. Keke's got the DRS, and now Gian is really defenseless. He's going to try and defend it around the outside, but he can't do anything about it. Keke has the superior speed down the straight. Keke then nearly loses it out the corner in his enthusiasm at having got past the Williams. And now can Gian potentially make a fight back into turn 1? No, he can't. Keke really nearly undoing all his hard work there with one stamp of a loud pedal. But it's Keke that takes over P5. It looks to me though like Giroffu has got this win fairly much in the bag, you have to say. Kieran may try and reduce that margin to Samba, but is it going to be enough? I don't know. Let's have a look at the intervals to the leader. Yeah, so as it stands, you're looking at Giroffu, Roby and Samba being your podium. Kieran's probably got a bit too much margin to get within 3 seconds of Samba. In the tail end of the points, it looks like Amwoy is going to have the final points paying position. Noziek just too far back. And we've potentially got Jaum and Fleddy about to go into combat for P7. We've just seen one Williams and an Alpine fight. We're about to see potentially the others do the same. Fleddy not quite close enough, didn't quite get the run he would have wanted at turns 14 and 15, and has to stay in behind for now. Not close enough into 16. Roby continues to run super close to Samba behind. In fact, you can see just how close it is. He probably realises now it may be too little too late to get the race win, but even though he's destined for P2 in the overall results, getting it on track may just give him that bit of extra pride and confidence going forward, and he may want to try and get it on the track. We shall see, but he's lost some margin there through the rest of that opening part of the lap and has to stay slotted in behind for now. Back to Fleddy. Is he in any better position to fight? A little bit closer, but I think Jaum has him covered for now. Samba looks like he's got Roby at bay, at least on track, if not anywhere else. Gian slipping back from Keke as tyres just starting to die on him, but he looks pretty safe for P6 still, which is a solid enough result, given how his race was sort of panning out towards the back end of that first stint. He was losing positions left, right and centre. I think he was down to P7, so ultimately P6 I think is a good salvage job, and he could still get P5 on penalties. Let's give Giroffu though some airtime. Our race leader. I'm going to go on board with him for his final lap. 4-second advantage. He's got it in the bag, providing he doesn't get any more penalties. And let's follow him round. It's been a super drive from Giroffu. Podium last time out in Austria, 3rd place. And he's going to add to that with a race win here. The fastest lap point is going to go to Keke in the AlphaTauri. But for Giroffu, it's been a sterling performance. Forced Kieran into a mistake when he overtook him during that second stint. And since then, he's controlled things out front and has never really looked like losing it, you have to say. And he's just got the tough bit of a track, the twisty bit of a track to negotiate for the final time. And then he can celebrate 16 hard-earned points. He will be absolutely delighted, and with that he will take the championship lead over Kieran by 1 point, I believe. Of course, before any stewards' inquiries go in, but I don't think that will make a difference to this person's result. Giroffu round the final few corners for the final time. Just had to gather the car up, mate. Last thing he wants to do is lose it right now. Giroffu in the Mercedes takes a brilliant win here in Miami. He wins the race here. Samba takes P2, but Roby will get it on penalties. Roby 2nd, Samba 3rd. Kieran will take 4th. Keke in 5th. Gian does miss out on P5 to Keke, unfortunately. Fleddy gets P7. LRB in 8th to penalties, and Amwoy picks up the final point for Ferrari in 10th, with Noziek being the unlucky one who misses out on points on this occasion. Pierre Papi, Charlie Moon and Gustav will complete the points. They're still battling further down. Don't know if I'll catch him across the line in time, but it is Pierre Papi who takes 13th. Charlie Moon had penalties anyway, and we wait for Gustav, but let's stay with the race winner. Fair play to Giroffu. Great drive from him. And as I said, forced Kieran into that crucial mistake around 10 laps from the end, and after that just controlled the race and was a very deserving winner in the end. Roby couldn't get back, claw back that 3-second margin he would have needed to grab the win. Roby actually, though, will be my driver of the day because he drove, I think, a sensational race. From 10th on the grid to P2, deserves a lot of credit. Giroffu was great as well, but for me, Roby is my driver of the day. He's also the game's driver of the day as well, so well done to Roby in the Haas. Well done to all the podium finishers. Samba in third. I'd be interested to see if he ends up in the stewards after that incident with Macho. We shall see. You can see there the podium, and it was third last time out, but he's on the top step today. Giroffu delighted, and rightly so. Mercedes on the top step looks very familiar, doesn't it? But for him, that's great news for him. He will take the lead on the championship provisionally going forward to next week at Spa. We'll have to see if any stewards' decisions change that. Potentially with Samba dropping down, who knows? Kieran may inherit P3. But nevertheless, here's your results then. Giroffu first, Roby second, Samba third, Kieran fourth, Keke fifth, Gianna in sixth, Fleddy, LRB, Jaume and Amwoy complete the points. And there are the rest of your finishers. But that's been it for PSGL F4 tonight. Just a reminder to check out GT Omega, our sponsors. Use the code PSGL at checkout, 5% off all GT Omega products. And be sure to give them a check out in the description. There's still action going on in F1 and some of the other top PlayStation tiers tonight, so check those out as well. But from me, Jake, it's goodbye, and I will see you next week for Spa. But until then, good night.